Welcome everyone joining us. This is Chris Posey with the Atlanta Urban Debate League. I'm going to jump in and get started. Today we'll be continuing a larger discussion on debate fundamentals with a section on cross-examination. More to fundamentals, presentations, and other topics are available on our website at atlantadebate.org and also available on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/AtlantaDebate. Cross-examination provides debaters with a secondary format of communicating their positions to the judge. While cross-examination can be helpful in many ways, we're going to be taking a moment to address just a few of those ways in particular. These goals include argument clarification for you and your partner, further clarification for the sake of the judge, recording commitments from the other team, and making a positive impression on the judge. Additional resources and discussions regarding cross-examination and other topics are available on our website at atlantadebate.org, and we of course encourage you to share any questions or additional comments regarding cross-examination that we can share with you in future content. One of the easiest ways to make cross-examination useful is to clarify your understanding or notation of the opposing team's arguments. Maybe they were speaking a little bit too quickly, or you missed the tag of their fourth response on the counterplan. Cross-examination can and should be used to clear up any holes in your flow. Assuming you're able to record some information from the argument, use what you have and even the number of the argument to directly request the information from your opponent. Try to eliminate as much leeway as possible for them to use this time to advertise and explain their arguments to the judge. If you have what you need, be sure to move on to other arguments that either need clarification or more productive cross-examination goals. As important as it can be to clarify your opponent's arguments for the sake of your own flow, cross-examination creates an even bigger opportunity to highlight weak arguments, responses, and evidence. Often when I ask novice debaters why they think cross-examination helps them win, they say that it's because they're able to make the other team look bad. And some of them even enjoy it. To do this, more experienced and successful debaters are often going to highlight weaknesses in their opponent's arguments as opposed to weaknesses in their opponents themselves. When asking questions about arguments, winning debaters will often use specifics from the evidence or even read selections from the evidence to help frame their questions. If the premise made by their evidence is weak, asking about it specifically is going to highlight this for the judge. You can follow up as you see fit with questions that press on any weaknesses that you're able to expose. Once you've gotten teams to clarify or characterize their arguments in a certain way, don't forget to talk about these characterizations that came out in the speeches themselves. Oftentimes, cross-examination statements, they don't make it to the flow, so you want to follow up a successful round of questioning with mentions of the events that took place in cross-examination in your following speeches, wherever it's relevant in the debate. If there are questions about, a particular uniqueness argument, then you can mention what happened in cross-examination while you're debating about uniqueness. Experienced debaters are rarely going to ask a question in cross-examination without having a pretty good idea of how their opposition is going to respond. Questions are prepared and asked often ahead of time to elicit very specific responses to better position certain arguments. For example, if you have questions regarding the strength of a particular leader in China, those particular responses can help inform the larger link debate of political capital or leader capital. Or if you have questions about the negative link arguments, it can solidify the importance of a particular link turn that you're arguing in later affirmative rebuttal speeches. Knowing what your opponent is going to say allows you to better consider how you can use your opponent's particular commitments to win a debate. Regardless, it's always going to be important that you stay in control of the discussion the best that you can. If they're going to avoid directly answering your questions, just clarify and repeat yourself respectfully, indirectly, until you can get a satisfactory response. If they continue to be difficult and standoffish, that's going to be apparent to the judge, and they're going to lose credibility on their own arguments and their responses to yours. Cross-examination, as mentioned earlier, is an alternative style of communication within the round itself, between the opponents themselves, and the arguments become more direct. The way that you interact with your opponent and the larger audience is going to send a signal that can either support or conflict, with the self-purported strength of your arguments. Your conduct and demeanor, can give the benefit of the doubt to your side, or donate it to the opposition, and give it to them when you would rather have it yourself. You want to try and find some sort of baseline personality that is confident but also respectful. If you want to carry yourself as right on an argument or a round winner, you have to avoid seeming overly defensive or aggressive. If you're much stronger than your opponent, you want to seem helpful instead of demeaning. It's not going to help you if you press your strength over your opponent in ways that make them feel bad about themselves. That's going to make the judge dislike you as opposed to like you. You're always going to want to engage your opponent, from a place of respect. You want to have respect for their arguments, and you want to have respect for them as individuals. If your opponent decides to be rude, you need to command respect, but you don't escalate things. If your opponent is, rude, don't be afraid to ask your opponent, if you can move on from certain parts of the argument. If they continue to keep going, there's always tactful ways that are going to help you move on, but there's also more abrasive ways that you want to avoid to transition these conversations. I want to thank you for joining us and wish the best of luck to you at your upcoming events. Please never hesitate to reach out to me directly. My email is chris@atlantadebate.org. You can always find more resources like this one on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/AtlantaDebate. And when we're live, you can find us twitch.tv/AtlantaDebate.